think that I've now, at 63 years old, suddenly owned that it's not a bad thing to speak your voice.
There was like photos with her and Prince Andrew way back in the day when she was like in her early 20s.
It happened just after midnight. That bewitching hour when London yawns awake, Hollywood finally quiets down, and the royal press office still has sleep in its eyes. But oh honey, the internet was already blazing. Sarah Ferguson, yes, the Duchess of York herself, had just done the unthinkable. She released new pictures, never before seen, never filtered, never blurred. And guess who starred in them? Meghan Markle, in her so-called yacht days with none other than Prince Andrew. The moment those photos dropped, it was like tossing dynamite into the royal gossip pit. Podcasts scrambled to go live. Royal reporters who'd already slipped into pajamas were suddenly racing to studios with half-buttoned shirts. Social media exploded with hashtags, gifs, and speculation so wild even Buckingham couldn't script it. And at the center of it all, Meghan Markle herself. Only she wasn't posting. She wasn't posing. She was silent. But that silence, according to whispers from her Montecito circle, wasn't calm or calculated. Oh no, it was pain, devastation. One insider said she didn't see this coming. Not from Fergie. That's what made it all sting. Fergie and Meghan were never besties, sure, but there was an unspoken rule among royal ex-duchesses. You don't throw shade at one of your own. You don't reopen buried history. You keep things polite, perfumed, and locked behind palace drapes. But Fergie, she lit the match. The first photo hit the internet like a slap across the face. Meghan on a Mediterranean yacht, wind in her hair, drink in hand, laughing amid a crowd of men the tabloids politely labeled international elite. And there, unmistakably young, tanned, smug, was Prince Andrew.
And to sort of, in the old days I would have gone, oh shush, no, I'm not.
Close. A little too close. Then came the second photo, the one that turned whispers into wildfire. Meghan wasn't just mingling this time. She was leaning toward Andrew, hand brushing his arm, eyes glimmering with something familiar. The body language analysts on Twitter practically lost their minds. Was it innocent? Was it intimate? Or was it something else entirely? But forget Meghan for a second. The real question the internet was screaming was why Fergie? Why now? Why her? Why drop this bomb herself? According to insiders close to the York circle, Fergie had reached her limit. For years she'd been dragged through scandals she didn't cause, blamed for Andrew's choices, mocked in the press, and compared unfairly to every duchess who came after. But when she saw Meghan and Harry painting themselves as royal victims while leaving certain truths untouched, oh, that's when the tea started boiling. Fergie, it seems, wanted the world to see the full picture. Not just the glossy Hollywood version Meghan curated, so she didn't leak those photos quietly through some tabloid. No, darling, she posted them herself, with commentary, direct, sharp, explosive. Her caption, just one line. Some memories should never be rewritten. Boom.
And King Charles has very much been dragged into this. The king has been heckled.
That wasn't diplomacy. That wasn't palace shade. That was Fergie unleashed. Fiery, fed up, and ready to watch the world burn. Within minutes, hashtag Meghan Markle was trending #1 in the UK. 10 minutes later, America joined the party, and the world split in two. One half defended Meghan fiercely. Ancient history, they said. She was just networking like any young actress would. The other half wanted answers. How did she know Andrew? Why was she on that yacht? And why had that whole chapter mysteriously vanished from every interview and documentary she's ever done? But no one's reaction mattered more than Meghan's. Inside that Montecito mansion, sources say she was pacing the marble floors, furious, panicked, and heartbroken all at once. This wasn't just about photos. This was about her story, the one she'd spent years sculpting to perfection. The humanitarian duchess, the misunderstood woman rising above it all. In minutes, Fergie had smashed it like glass. She felt betrayed, said one friend, and what hurt most was she couldn't fight back, because any response would only draw more eyes to the scandal. And that's Meghan's biggest rule. You either control the story or you silence it. But this time, she couldn't do either, because Fergie wasn't some YouTuber, wasn't a blogger looking for clicks. She was a duchess too, a royal insider with receipts, baby. And rumor has it, those receipts were only the beginning. The whispers got darker. The photos Fergie dropped? Supposedly just 2 out of an entire private archive she's been holding onto for decades. Decades. And the moment those first images went viral, talk started spreading. There was more. Photos, letters, maybe even footage that could rewrite Meghan's pre-Harry life entirely. Inside the palace, alarms quietly rang. The courtiers stayed outwardly calm, as they always do. But behind those gilded walls, phones were buzzing, aides whispering, strategies forming. Protocol is their weapon of choice. And honey, they were sharpening it. Meanwhile, Fergie stayed cool as ice, unbothered, unapologetic. She'd thrown the first punch and was now sipping her tea, watching the ripple turn into a tsunami. One royal editor said it best. You can fight the tabloids, you can fight the palace, but you cannot fight a duchess with a grudge. And this, darling, wasn't just gossip anymore. This was a royal war. What followed was chaos dressed in designer silk. Fergie began releasing the pictures one by one. A slow, devastating drip. Meghan on the yacht, laughing. Meghan beside Andrew, glowing. Meghan carefree in the sun, the very image of indulgence. A far cry from her polished, philanthropic brand. Each drop was calculated, the timing surgical. Just as Meghan's PR team drafted a statement, boom. Fergie posted another photo. Every attempt at control dissolved under the weight of public fascination. Meghan's team scrambled like never before. Lawyers on one line, crisis consultants on another, PR drafts flying back and forth. The challenge? Every word had to be perfect. Too defensive looked guilty. Too dismissive looked arrogant. Behind the scenes, tension turned volcanic. Meghan's advisors fought over strategy. Release a statement or stay silent. Some pushed to highlight her charity work. Others begged her to vanish for a while. But Meghan, she was in tears, oscillating between fury and disbelief. She swore this was personal, that Fergie meant to destroy her. And maybe she wasn't wrong, because Fergie's moves were ruthless. She wasn't just releasing photos, she was releasing symbols. Meghan's laugh became indulgence. Her dress became defiance. Her proximity to Andrew became insinuation. Social media turned into a courtroom. Every frame dissected, every smile weaponized. Influencers made threads. Body language experts filled entire podcasts. Even royal commentators who'd sworn neutrality couldn't resist. The palace maintained its icy calm. No comment on private lives, their spokespeople repeated. But that silence? Oh, it spoke volumes. Inside Buckingham, aides tracked every reaction, every post, every poll. They didn't need to say a word. The optics alone did their job. Fergie had handed them something priceless, a scandal that distracted the world from their own troubles. Meanwhile, Meghan's world crumbled. Her team flooded social media with photos of her visiting charities, hugging children, planting trees, anything to remind people of her compassion. But the internet, it wasn't letting go. The yacht images had burned themselves into collective memory. By week 2, the tabloids were calling it Yachtgate. Podcasts dedicated entire specials to it. Talk shows reenacted it. Late-night hosts joked that Meghan had gone from duchess to deckhand. And as much as her PR people tried to pivot, every post she made drew the same comments. Where's the yacht, Meghan? Inside Montecito, the mood turned desperate. Strategy sessions ran past midnight. Every potential lawsuit was debated, every leak investigated. Legal teams warned that suing would backfire. It would drag the photos into court, guaranteeing weeks of headlines. So Meghan tried a softer approach. Subtle control. She leaned into interviews about resilience, about truth versus narrative. But even that backfired. Clips from those interviews got spliced side by side with the yacht photos. The internet can be cruel like that. And through it all, Fergie stayed silent. No new statements, no clarifications. Just the occasional cryptic quote on her social media, perfectly timed to keep the fire alive. Insiders say Buckingham couldn't help but admire the precision. Fergie had turned one reckless summer into a PR chess game, and every move made Meghan look cornered. By the end of the month, Meghan's team was exhausted. Her once polished narrative, grace, poise, charity, had been dented, not shattered, but bruised enough that people started whispering. Was she really as innocent as she claimed? Was Fergie telling the truth? And most of all, what else was out there? Because rumor had it, those 2 yacht pictures were just the tip of an iceberg the palace had always kept frozen. Weeks rolled into months, and though the internet's attention wandered, the scars remained. Meghan's name, once synonymous with empowerment, now carried an edge of intrigue, of scandal, the kind that never truly fades. Meanwhile, Fergie? She'd done what few ever could, shifted the royal spotlight without stepping foot in a palace. Her message had landed. Some memories shouldn't be rewritten. And Meghan? For once, she didn't have the last word. Because in the world of royals and reputations, silence can sometimes scream the loudest. The world had moved on to the next headline, but the echo of those yacht photos never truly faded. Every time Meghan appeared on a red carpet, every time she spoke about empowerment or truth, you could feel the shadow of Fergie's bombshell lurking behind her smile. It was as if every flashbulb carried a silent question. Was that the same woman from those pictures? Insiders said Meghan's confidence took a heavy blow. She became guarded, calculating, double-checking every outfit, every pose, every word. Even close friends noticed the shift. Gone was the carefree sparkle, replaced by a cautious perfection. "She's terrified of another ambush," one Montecito acquaintance whispered. "She doesn't trust anyone anymore." And can you blame her? The betrayal didn't come from the press or strangers. It came from another duchess, a woman who knew the cost of public humiliation and still lit the fire herself. But Fergie wasn't losing any sleep. If anything, she looked rejuvenated, almost reborn in the headlines. Suddenly, she was being invited to interviews again, asked for royal insight, treated like the voice of truth after years in the background. That's the cruel rhythm of royalty. Someone's downfall always feeds someone else's revival. And Meghan, she could feel that. She knew her pain had become another woman's redemption story. Behind palace gates, aides whispered that the monarchy wasn't displeased. Fergie had unintentionally done what no official official could, remind the world who still holds the real power. The institution stayed spotless while the ex-duchesses fought in the mud. Classic palace strategy, one commentator snorted. They never lift a finger, they just let gravity do the work. Meanwhile, Harry was said to be furious, protective, livid, pacing halls like a man cornered. But his anger couldn't rewrite the internet. The photos were everywhere, immortalized in memes, documentaries, podcasts, TikToks. The story had outgrown both of them, and Meghan knew that fighting it now would only feed it. So she did what wounded royals always do. She smiled through it. Yet behind that smile, the pressure was suffocating. Every charity event, every public speech became a tightrope. One misplaced gesture in tabloids would drag her back to the deck of that yacht. It was the cruel price of image. Once a narrative slips away, no amount of polish can fully erase the stain. But maybe, just maybe, that's what Fergie wanted all along. Not destruction, but exposure. To remind the world that Meghan Markle wasn't a victim carved from marble and grace, but a woman, flawed, ambitious, strategic, just like the rest of them. And maybe, deep down, that's what made Meghan's tears so real. Because it wasn't just her past that Fergie unveiled. It was her humanity. By the time the cameras moved on, the damage was done. The Duchess who once controlled every headline had learned the oldest royal lesson the hard way. The crown may be heavy, but revenge wears diamonds too. And in the quiet corners of Montecito, when the lights are low and the house falls silent, maybe Meghan still wonders. If those pictures had never seen the light of day, would her story have stayed perfect? Or was this reckoning always waiting, tucked away in Fergie's dusty little archive, just waiting for the right moment to rise from the waves?